Welcome to the Hashimoto's Doctor Podcast. You're now part of a growing community of people determined to take their health back through education and self-empowerment. But because of the healthcare system today, we don't have access to the types of healthcare that we want. So we have to do things differently. We've got to do things smarter, and we do that by becoming our own advocates. This podcast will give you the perspective and thoughts of one of the world's leading Hashimoto's doctors. So let's get started. Hey guys, Dr. Shook here. I hope you're having a good day. In today's podcast, what I want to talk to you guys about is a question that I'm commonly asked, and that is, does leaky gut contribute to or cause Hashimoto's? And the answer to that question is not very simple, because here's the thing, we know that there are lots of possible causes for Hashimoto's. And I think that the best answer is that we believe that leaky gut is a contributing factor. We believe that it perpetuates and drives the autoimmune process, but we don't know if it causes Hashimoto's, right? We think that there are lots of different mechanisms, and that's probably the more accurate reality is that there are going to be multiple causes for this immune attack against the thyroid. As with all autoimmune conditions, there are going to be multiple causes. So what do I mean by multiple causes? Well, we think, for example, that like Epstein-Barr could contribute to an infection and attack against the thyroid. We think that that gluten has similar proteins that may leak through the GI tract wall into the bloodstream and drive an immune response that could contribute to an immune system attack or autoimmunity against the thyroid. So we know that there are other mechanisms, whether they be food-based, pathogen-based, so bacteria, viral infections, fungal infections, parasites, or chemical-based, which is something that's the greatest unknown is probably the chemical contribution to our autoimmunity and our thyroid dysfunction. And there's just so many chemicals that I don't see anytime in the near future that they're all going to be researched. I mean, not even close. I mean, we have such a small amount of research on these chemicals and we know that they affect our thyroid physiology. Many of them do, but we don't have research, and I quite frankly cannot see it in the near future and at any time where we're going to have research on the numerous combinations of these chemicals that we're exposed to. And what I mean by that is, we have, when they do cord blood samples of babies, of cord blood samples, I should say, and they're looking at the chemicals that the babies are being exposed to, they find that there are hundreds of chemicals, many of them known carcinogens, and these are just the ones they're looking for. And so when you start considering this, how do you do studies on someone that has 410 environmental chemicals that are known to have all these negative health consequences at very, very low doses, right? Which some people might say are safe, but when you have them all at those low doses, are they safe? We don't know. There's not enough research that has been done to support that. So the reality is that we have. How do you know if it's if someone? What are you going to do? Research on 410 chemicals, and how are you going to find people that have 410 and not 409 or 500 or 120? And they're all varying combinations, all in varying degrees or concentrations, in their body. So how do you do that? Well, you can't. It's not something that you can study very effectively at all. You're going to do case studies, and then you always have people that that have these arguments about, especially people that have interest in it, right? If there's a big business that has an interest in these chemicals, they'll say, well, at those low doses, it can't cause this, and it's a case study. And then you've got to account for, individuality. So what about that person's individual susceptibility? What about their genomic makeup? What about the environment and how it's influencing and affecting the way that their body reacts to these chemicals? That's going to be unique to the individual. So how in the world do you study it? you really, becomes very, very difficult, as you can see. So anyway, we know that there are a lot of contributing factors to this process, but this concept of leaky gut is something that when we work on it clinically, we find that there is improvement in many people in their immune system tolerance, and they really show significant improvements across several systems, and many symptoms improve at one time. So really, the issue with leaky gut, or the concept of leaky gut, is that there is GI tract inflammation, and it makes the lining of the intestinal tract break down. And what that does is it promotes this permeability, or this leakiness, where proteins or partially digested proteins from your diet, bacterial, what we call endotoxins, things like lipopolysaccharides, these things, it allows them to cross through the GI tract wall into the bloodstream. And we can measure these, we can measure a lot of these reactions. We know that we can do immune system testing and actually quantify whether or not your immune system is reacting to the foods, or that you have this lipopolysaccharide driven inflammation. We can look at LPS reactivity. So there are a lot of things that we can do to quantify that and see if that's happening. We can also do gut barrier testing, where we can evaluate whether or not your immune system is reacting to the barrier proteins that actually hold the GI tract wall together. We can see if your immune system is reacting. If your immune system is reacting, then we know that those proteins have broken down, and some of those have crossed into the bloodstream, and our immune system is reacting to them, which it should not be. And so we know that there's broken down or lost integrity. So anyway, this is a really important concept that I wanted to share with you guys, because though leaky gut we can't say that it causes, because we just don't have quite enough data to make that statement, but we know it's a very significant contributing factor. The most important thing you can do is, if you're autoimmune, is to look at the driving factors and say, okay, what can I do to minimize these factors or improve the things that are driving my unique problem. Now, sometimes you don't have the luxury of having extensive testing to better pinpoint the foods, the pathogens. So, everything I mentioned with pathogens, bacteria, viruses, fungal infections, parasites, or environmental chemicals that could be stimulating and driving the immune response. So what you have to do is you have to start with dietary changes. You have to start by utilizing some simple tools, right? Start with the basics. So changing up diet, and maybe using some temporary nutritional supplementation. I'm not a huge advocate of supplementation, if you're doing things on your own, because I see a lot of people that spend a lot of money on supplements that they really do not need. And they're just grasping at straws trying to find something to help themselves. But diet is definitely the best place to invest your time, your energy, and your monetary resources. So when you consider this, if you can improve leaky gut and you can decrease the burden on the immune system, because really the gut wall is a barrier system, guys. It keeps things in the GI tract that should stay there. It keeps them out of the bloodstream where it should not be. And if it gets into the bloodstream, if food proteins, or like I said, lipopolysaccharides, they drive an inflammatory process that really promotes immune reactivity and can cause, these immunological processes that we believe are what drive the autoimmune process, like cross-reactivity. We know that the mimicry of some of these food proteins and these lipopolysaccharides driving this inflammatory process can stoke the fire of autoimmunity, so to speak. We see it clinically all the time, where if we identify the drivers, these things that are stimulating the immune response, and we work to remove them and support healing, like the barrier systems, so the GI tract wall, which would be, supporting the leaky gut, supporting the blood-brain barrier, supporting the lung barrier, doing all of these things to improve the barrier systems, while we're utilizing nutritional supplementation to better help regulate the immune response. We're using vitamins and minerals to fill in nutrient deficiencies that may be occurring so that normal chemistry can take place. When we do these things, we notice a significant change in biochemistry. So, I think it's kind of a long way around it, but I feel like you need to understand that leaky gut is really a breakdown of the gut wall. And when that happens, there are proteins and bacterial byproducts in the GI tract that leak their way into the bloodstream, stimulate an immune response. They drive the immune system, which we see clinically as something that promotes autoimmunity, and we believe that it is a gateway to autoimmunity, and especially expanded autoimmunity, where the immune system reacts to other tissues. And that occurs through, I think the leading theory is through molecular mimicry or bystander effects, where the immune system is reacting to tissues in an area, and it might start reacting to other tissues within that vicinity. So it's bystander, right? So it's like friendly reactivity that actually expands to good tissues, and it results in this pathological process of autoimmunity against a new tissue. So, really, when we look at this, if we address the drivers of the leaky gut, and sometimes it's kind of hard to say, well, if leaky gut's promoting the autoimmunity, and the autoimmunity is driving inflammation, and the inflammation is promoting increased cortisol, and we know that increased cortisol for a prolonged period of time can impair the ability of your gut wall to repair itself, then that perpetuates the leaky gut further, which further stimulates the autoimmunity. It's this vicious loop, right? It's this vicious cycle. So where do we intervene? Well, what we do is we need to look at everything that's going on, and we need to intervene, and we need to use tools to help us improve that loop, break that loop at multiple points, right? So changing diet, using temporary nutritional supplementation that will help to support healing the gut wall, that will help to break down food proteins so we have less reactivity, that will help to decrease the inflammatory chemical response that we see occurring. We do all these things. We intervene with lifestyle interactions to try to help reduce the stress response. All of these things are what we have to do. So anyway, I know we don't really, I know it's a long explanation, right? And it's kind of complicated, but the fact is that, start simple, right? Begin with dietary changes. And guys, you can always try something like an autoimmune paleo diet. We've seen that works pretty well for people. If you're interested in knowing like exactly what we've used with people clinically, we have a program called the Transformation Community. And within the Transformation Community, we have the 6-week Hashimoto's Transformation Dietary Program, which has our dietary approach that we've used with people for years, and we've refined it over the years. That's very specific foods that we found to be very helpful. And it also incorporates lifestyle recommendations and strategies that we think are best. And we help you figure out what nutritional supplements you need. So that is a fantastic place to start. You can go, if you're interested in joining that community, you can go to hashimotosdoctor.com/TCS, and you can learn more about joining that community. There are a ton of resources available in that community to you guys. There's that program, which is a video-based program that I walk you through. And then there's also a support group that's part of that, as well as you get access to our, my hand-picked online supplement pharmacy. You get access to that, which people, no one gets access to that. And currently, as the time of recording this, we have a huge discount for people. So they actually, when they join our community, they save a lot of money. So that's something to consider, right? If you want to know a plan, a strategy, and you want someone to spoon feed it to you, and then have a community that you can ask questions of, then that is a great place to start. And we created it for that reason, to give access to precision medicine, functional medicine to the masses. So that's a great place to start. Now, if you want to try to get results faster, then you need to consider working one-on-one with someone. Now, there are people that you can work with around the country. I'm sure there are people around in your location that have some familiarity with this. I want to let you know that we do work with people around the world, across the U.S. We help them get advanced diagnostic testing. We help give them direction, and we do that via Skype, FaceTime, and phone. And so here's the thing: there are a lot of people that are, let's say, they're educated in this process of natural healthcare, but they may not have an extensive focus in one area, like Hashimoto's or thyroid autoimmunity, or dealing with autoimmunity. Some people don't deal with autoimmunity, and these are areas that I've dedicated myself to. So if you need help, you may want to consider working with someone. If you feel like you want someone that has a lot of time and experience and education in working with autoimmunity, and specifically thyroid autoimmunity, then you might want to consider going to our website and looking at working with us one-on-one, working with me one-on-one. You can just go to our website and learn more about that at drbradshuk.com/ well, it's going to be the application for care link, and I'm not sure about the URL, but you just go to drbradshuk.com, click on the application for care link, and you can look through, the requirements that we ask of people, that we require for you to work with us one-on-one. And if that looks like something that would be a good fit, then just request an appointment, and we will do everything we can to help you get to the bottom of what's driving your problems and put together a very specific and precise plan to help you, try to get your health back. So anyway, guys, I hope this helps. That was kind of a, I just sit sometimes, like right now, I'm just sitting in my car, letting my car warm up, and I just sit here and whatever's on my mind, I try to share with you guys. So I hope it made sense. Leaky gut's important. We don't know if it causes Hashimoto's. Well, I think that there are probably some cases where it does contribute to the initiation of Hashimoto's, but there are viral links, there are likely chemical, environmental chemical links, and what we have to do is figure out what's driving these processes once this has occurred, work to remove them from the body, from the environment, work on healing and supporting the damage that has been done to the body by these immune stimulating compounds, these chemicals, and that's where we have real improvements in health. So I appreciate you guys. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I look forward to hanging out with and talking to you again soon. Thanks. Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed hanging out behind the scenes with Dr. Shook. You can also talk with and learn from Dr. Shook through Facebook Live on our Facebook page at the Office of Dr. Brad Shook. Don't forget, you can also get access to our videos, guidebooks, and thyroid programs at www.drbradshuk.com. Oh yeah, and don't forget one more thing. We can change the world one person, one family, and one community at a time. Until next time, remember, today is your day, and no one will tell you who you are and what you can be.